So let me share with you, an idea, a thought that I was thinking about. Like the past few weeks in the parsha, so we've been building up to the moment of when the Mishkan can be used. It's like the Rebbeinu Shalom, we were in Mitzrayim, and the Rebbeinu Shalom takes us out of Mitzrayim, and Hashem says to him, "You know why I'm taking you out of Mitzrayim? Because you're going to get the Torah, and then you're going to be able to build a Mishkan. And you're going to have a place where I'm going to reside amongst you, and it's going to be amazing, right?" And then finally, we have the Torah, and then Shumat Tetzaveh, and Vayikra Pekudei, all the Hachanes, all the Mesiras Nefesh of the Jewish people, all leading to actually using the Mishkan. For what? To kill animals, right? To kill animals, to slit their throats, and for the blood to spritz everywhere, and intestines, and washing it out. And it's like, it not only does it seem to be very anticlimactic in terms of ruchnius, also it's very unrelatable. Like we're davening every single day for the Beis Hamikdash to come back for what? I mean, the Beis Hamikdash is to bring karbanis. I mean, honestly, is that what we're excited about for Mashiach to come for karbanis? So we should be. So what is that? So in other words, here's the question: if in a certain sense all of Yiddishkeit and all of Jewish history is revolving around Beis Hamikdash, is revolving on Mishkan. That's what's revolving around, right? It's all leading to the third Beis Hamikdash. It's all about that, and the Beis Hamikdash is all about karbanos. So, how do we make sense of that? How do we make sense of that? What's even more strange, if you think about it, is that who are the ones that are bringing karbanos? The people that are bringing karbanos are people that have sinned. So you're talking about the centerpiece of all of Yiddishkeit, the apex of all of Yiddishkeit, the destination, the goal that everything has been leading to, is a place that's specifically custom made for what? For people that have done averos. And people that have done averos and are trying to get better. That's a very strange thing. You would think that, okay, there should maybe a little bit of we'll have an annex. We'll have an extension a little bit off the side and the back for the Bali Tshuva, for people that have to do Tshuva and so on. But the Beis Hamikdash proper, that should be a place for tzaddikim. So how do we make sense of the fact that, no, the Beis Hamikdash, the entire function of the Beis Hamikdash is for bringing karbanos, and karbanos are predominantly for people that have made mistakes, and they're trying to climb out of their mistakes. So there's a Torah from Rabbi Nachman in the Likutei Moharan. It's in Chelek Aleph Nun Tes. But before we get there, let me talk a little bit about something else that we find by the Seder. By the Seder, one of the simanim that we have is yachatz, right? So you break the middle matzah. So, and it's two pieces, right? So the little smaller half you use for eating matzah then and there, right? By maitzi matzah. And the bigger half you immediately put aside, you cover it up for afikoim, right? What's going on over there? So it's like this. It's brought down in the Svarim that when you break the middle matzah, that's a bechina, that's a quality. You are physically doing something to represent a feeling of shviras halev, of having a broken heart. The heart, the word leiv in Tanakh, very often is associated with the middle. For example, leiv yam. That when you want, like in Chumash or in Tanakh or Navi, where it talks about the middle of the ocean, it's the word leiv. So the middle matzah is the heart. That's the heart. The middle matzah being broken is a bechina of the quality of shvurei lev, of having a broken heart. And the afikaimen that we eat, the bigger part of the afikaimen that comes later that we eat, so the word afikaimen equals begematria the word roife, which means that the actual breaking of the middle matzah, that's a representation of a Jewish person feeling a sense of having a broken heart. But the afikaimen that comes from that breaking, it itself is the refuah. And that's the secret of haroife l'shvurei lev. Afikaimen is the refuah for that broken heart. That's why the words haroife l'shvurei lev is Rosh Hashanah, the first letters is the word hillel, which is why when we have kairach, when we eat the sandwich of matzah and mar, we go out of our way and say zeichel l'migdash kehillel. Why mention the Tana's name? I mean, a lot of things that we do are eventually you find their way back to a certain Tana that said it, but we don't always say, I don't know, when you're doing something, I don't know, when you do a mitzvah, you don't say, well, I'm doing this because Rabbi Gamliel said so, or Rabbi Kiva and so on. Zeich l'mikdash kehil, we mention Hill's name. The reason is because Hill is a major, that word Hill is not just that person. It's the word Hill is Harayf l'shurei lev. So how do we make sense of this? The truth is like this. Afikaimen is a funny thing. Let's figure out what Afikaimen is about a little bit. Afikaimen is a very, very strange thing. There's I mentioned this the other night. I gave a shir lesson in the shul. So I mentioned this, that in the Haggadah of the Divrei Chaim, the sons of Rav, it's going to sound funny. He brings it. He says that it's known amongst the tzaddikim that even nowadays, we'll pull back for a second. What do we eat Afikaimen? What's the purpose of Afikaimen? So Afikaimen, even though you ate matzah earlier in the Seder, right? You eat another piece of Afikaimen later. Why? Because it's a zeicha for the Karban Pesach. Right? Back in times of the Beis HaMikdash, so you had matzah and mar, but you also had a Karban Pesach. We don't have the Karban nowadays, so Afikaimen is a zeicher for the Karban Pesach. So the Sons of Rav says that it's known amongst the tzaddikim that even Bizman Hazeh, even right now, Eliyahu Hanavi, he's a Kayin, Eliyahu Hanavi Bizman Hazeh is makar of a Karban Pesach for the Jewish people in the Beis HaMikdash Shalmala. And said the Sons of Rav and tzaddikim that are on Eliyahu Hanavi's good list, when Eliyahu brings that Karban Pesach, he gives it out to these tzaddikim, and they taste the Karban Pesach in the Afikaimen that they eat. And the Sons of Rav says, and I know that this is what he writes in his Haggadah, and I know the reader, you're thinking that I'm talking about Ruchnius. He said, no, I mean physically. A shtick Karban Pesach. This is like a piece of Karban Pesach that when the tzaddikim eat Afikaimen, they literally taste the taste of a Karban Pesach. And that's what he says. There's even a story that they say from the Barditchever. This is already, you have to, I don't know if you believe this, it's a little bit hard. But they say from the Barditchever that after he ate Afikaimen, you look on his lips and you would see that it was fat. There wasn't, it was like glossy, like as if he just ate a steak. Yeah, Afikaimen. The Sons of Rav goes further. He says that even if you're not a tzaddik like that on Eliyahu Hanavi's list, that he's going to give you a piece. Because the Karban Pesach, you have to be prepared from before the Karban Pesach. The person bringing the Karban has to have a list of the people that he's having in mind when he's sacrificing it. The guy brings a regular Karban shlamim on an average day, and you knock on his door, oh, by the way, can I join? No problem at all. Karban Pesach, you have to be on the list from before. So Eliyahu has a list of tzaddikim that he's going to bring the Karban Pesach for. So it says the Sons of Rav, even if you're not on that list, if you believe in the tzaddikim and you believe what I just said, then it'll be as if you had the Karban Pesach. In other words, the Afikaimen is not just a piece of matzah that you're eating. The Afikaimen in halacha is remembering the Karban Pesach, and even more than that, according to the Sons of Rav, it's mamish the Karban Pesach, which means, so let's go back for a second. Yachatz is the broken matzah, and the Afikaimen is the refuah, haroy for the shvur leif. What makes a Jewish person's heart break? What's the saddest thing in the world? So, all shvir salev, all feelings of having a broken heart, ultimately get back to the same nakuda, which is a sense, the feeling that a Jew has being distant from Hashem. That's where all. Anytime a Jew feels sad, they could be thinking they're sad about they lost money, or they think they're sad about a relationship that fell apart, or they're sad about their own issues, whatever the case may be. Really, that's all true. But ultimately, when you peel back enough layers, the reason why Yid is sad is because they feel far from Hashem. And that feeling is being triggered by the fact that they lost money, or the fact that the relationship fell apart, or whatever the case may be. It's triggering that feeling of a broken heart that I feel like a million miles away. That's what Shvir Salev is. So what's the refuah for that? So comes Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Nachman says a murder thing. Rabbi Nachman says, is that, from the time that we're little kids, we always have this thing, right? That whenever we do a mitzvah, when we do anything, we're another brick in the Beis HaMikdash, right? Another brick in the Beis HaMikdash. So Rabbi Nachman says it's true, but the bricks of the third Beis HaMikdash, that when enough bricks are laid, it'll come down, are not just like the mitzvahs that you do. Rabbi Nachman says the Heichal Hashem, the chamber, the sanctuary of the Rebbeinu Shalom, is specifically built from the neshamas that are far away. The neshamas that are far away and somehow find within themselves the resolve to inch that much closer, those are the bricks that become the Beis HaMikdash. Menachem quotes the Zohar Kadosh. The Zohar says that when Yisro, right, he was a guy, not just was he a guy, he was He was a big guy. He was the head. He was the Pope. You know what I mean? He was the Kohen Gadol of all the Avodah Zaras. So he's a million miles away, mamish, the other side of the planet, right? And then he finds his way to Moshe Rabbeinu and he converts. The Zohar says there was more kavod Shemayim that was revealed at that moment when Yisro comes to Moshe Rabbeinu to convert than even Har Sinai. Kavod Hashem, the honor of Hashem, the glory of Hashem is revealed not when people that are close to Him serve Him. It's not a kunz. When the Malachim and Shemayim serve the Rebbeinu Shalom, it's nice, it's beautiful, it's very nice. That doesn't reveal Hashem's kavod. What reveals Hashem's kavod is when you have a person like Yisro, that everything in his life is the opposite of Hashem Yisbarach, and even he finds his way back. Because the kavod of Hashem is so deep and so profound, it's so powerful, that it makes its way all the way to Yisro. That's where kavod Hashem comes from. Says Rabbi Nachman, it's dafka neshamas that are far away. Those are dafka the ones that are literally building the Beis HaMikdash. So by Yachatz, what's happening by Yachatz? Yachatz is a person who feels that, who am I? Mamash Yisrael. Mamash Yisrael. I've gone through all these weeks, before Pesach, and I'm, I don't know anything about Pesach. I probably could have spent more time preparing, and I didn't. Even by the Seder, I'm sitting here. I don't feel anything. I don't know anything. All I'm thinking about is trying to get to the course in Shulchan Aruch, and I'm thinking to myself, what type of person am I that I'm sitting by the Seder and I'm looking in front of me, and I have an achrayus. I have to take matzah into my system. I have to bring a munah to my life, and all I'm thinking about is I just want to go to sleep or I want to eat something. Like what type of? And all these thoughts are mamash a broken heart. So what happens? The broken heart itself, the bigger piece of it, becomes Afikaimen. What is Afikaimen? Afikaimen means Beis HaMikdash. Afikaimen doesn't just mean remembering Beis. Afikaimen means like the Divrei Chaim said. Afikaimen means there's a Beis HaMikdash right now, and that's what Afikaimen is saying. Afikaimen is saying is that the Beis HaMikdash of right now is being built by your brokenness. It's being built by the fact that you feel far away and you're still by the Seder. That itself is a gil of kavod Shemayim, because if you're right about who you are, about how far you are, and you're still here, that just shows you how unbelievably amazing the Rebbeinu Shalom is that his kavod is able to reach such a far place like you. So the brokenness of Yachas is itself kavod Shemayim, is itself the Afikaimen. This is why, going back, this is why the Beis HaMikdash, which is a place of Hashem's kavod, that's what the sanctuary itself. What is the focal point of the Beis HaMikdash? What's the purpose of the Beis HaMikdash? The purpose of the Beis HaMikdash is to bring back neshamas that are lost. That's what the Beis HaMikdash is. So the whole essence of the Beis HaMikdash is revolving around what? Bringing karbanos. And who's bringing karbanos? People that have sinned. It's not for tzaddikim. It's not for people that are far away. Why? Not as like listen, what can I tell you? They need the extra farbrengen. They need the extra chizik. It's much deeper than that. They're yidden that are far away, but yet push and claw somehow, and even feel sad about being far away. That itself is what the Beis HaMikdash was built on. So it's only right that the Beis HaMikdash should be focused on Yidden like that, because that's literally what it was built on. That every brick of the Beis HaMikdash is a little krechs of a Yid that feels a broken heart, that feels far away, and is trying to find their way back. This is why Rabbi Nachman says, the pasuk says, Kol hanoiser b'Yushalayim, all that have remained, all the Jews that remain in Yerushalayim, the remnants, like the leftovers, noiser b'Yushalayim, kadosh yamarlei, they'll be called holy. Kadosh yamarlei. What does that mean? Who are these noiser? What does that mean? The leftovers of Yerushalayim. So Rabbi Nachman says it means Yidden that all their friends and all their family and everything around them, the whole world around them, has gone completely Yisrodek. They're completely far away from the Rebbeinu Shalom. They have no shaychus anymore. But this guy, although he's coming from the same place and he's also a million miles away, there's a part of him which is still a remnant. There's the part of him that's still holding on, and he's holding on by his fingertips, and he's clawing his way back, and he feels bad about the fact that he's far away. Hanoiser b'Yerushalayim, he's a remnant. He's leftovers. He has a little bit of piece of him that's still a little bit left over from what used to be when his neshama was in Shemayim. Kadosh Yamarlai. That's the holiest Jew of all. That's literally a Yid that's building the Beis HaMikdash. He's literally a brick in the Beis HaMikdash. This is why the Afikaimen is the leftovers from the matzah. It's mamish leftovers, right? It's mamish leftovers, because that's the site of Hanoiser b'Yerushalayim. This is, by the way, it's interesting. There's a very strong connection between Yachatz, Afikaimen, Karban Pesach, everything we're talking about, and Yitzchak Avinu. B'chlal, Yitzchak Avinu has a very strong connection to the Seder. Yitzchak's birthday was Pesach, Seder night. The first person that we have in all of Chumash that there's a strong reference to Karban Pesach and Karban Chagiga, right, which are the two karbanis that were brought on Pesach night, and that's why by Afikam you eat two kazesim, one for Karban Pesach and one for its sister Karban Chagiga. The first person we have a reference to that is Yitzchak. By when he's trying to give a bracha to he thinks he's going to give a bracha to Esav, right? And ends up being Yaakov. So he says, so Yaakov Avinu makes shteg deizim, two goats, one for Karban Pesach and one for Chagiga. The word Yitzchak, therefore Yitzchak is very strong, very connected to this concept of Karban Pesach. He's very strong connected to Afikaimin because the Afikaimin is a Karban Pesach. That's why the word Yitzchak has in it the word Chetzi, to break in half. That's also why Chazal say that when Mashiach ultimately comes, and it's not so clear which Yidden will Chazal say the whole story that Lasalavai, the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to see which Yidden are worthy of reward, who's worthy of getting the presents, and what happens is that the Rebbeinu Shalom takes out the paperwork, and says, no, it seems like Yidden, there's a lot of Averis over here, it doesn't seem to work out. And so Avram Avinu doesn't know what to say, Yaakov Avinu doesn't know what to say until Yitzchak comes. And Yitzchak goes to the whole cheshbon with Hashem, and at the end of the day works out how many Averis there really are. And then Yitzchak Avinu at the end says, and whatever Averis are remaining, Palgi alai, Palgi alach, half on me, half on you, let's split it. So Yitzchak Avinu is splitting. Yitzchak Avinu is the secret of being able to appreciate the kavod shemayim, the honor of heaven that comes dafka from someone who's 1,000,000 miles away. That's why he wanted to give a bracha to Esav. Because he knew, what type of kavod shemayim can be if Esav comes back? What type of Beis HaMikdash will be built if it's built with Esav? Can you imagine such a thing? So Rivka Imenu knew better. Rivka Imenu knew that there's enough Yidden and Yaakov Avinu that are far away. We could build the Beis HaMikdash, you don't have to go to Esav. But that's why Yaakov Avinu steals the brachas, just like by Afikaimin, that children steal the Afikaimin from their father. The whole Maisa with Afi, it's all very Yitzchak. And that's why the four sons that we talk about by the Seder, the word Ben, which is a son, 4 sons, 4 times Ben is a gematria Yitzchak. Yitzchak is the first Ben. Yitzchak is the first Jewish son. So the whole Inyan of Pesach night is very connected to Yitzchak. Yitzchak Avinu, the 400 years of exile began with the birth of Yitzchak. So the exile comes from Yitzchak, starts with Yitzchak, the redemption is Yitzchak. Why is Yitzchak such an essential point over here? Yitzchak means to laugh, right? What's the biggest joke? The biggest joke is, the biggest shocking, what makes a person laugh? When the unexpected, right? What's the most unexpected thing? The most unexpected thing is that the bricks that the Beis HaMikdash are built on, the kavod shemayim that will be revealed with Mashiach, are dafka coming from what? From Yidden that were the laughing stock of all the Jewish people. That guy in the back over there that can barely muster up enough Mesiras Nefesh to open a siddur. The guy in the back that can barely, he's schmoozing with his friend outside of the shul, and everyone's thinking, so go home. What are you here for? You here just to... But the answer is he's there because he's nicer Yerushalayim. There's a remnant. There's a part of him that can't let go. And that's the biggest kavod shemayim. That's exactly what the Beis HaMikdash is built from. The yachatz, the broken matzah, is itself the comfort of the Afikaimin. And this is what the Beis HaMikdash is about. That's why, just to end with this, the Rambam writes, the Rambam says in the beginning of Hilchas Beis HaBechir, the halachas of the Beis HaMikdash, the Rambam says that there's a mitzvah to build a Beis HaMikdash, right? And the Rambam then says, and what is the Beis HaMikdash exactly? Like, let's define it. Like, what's the definition of the Beis HaMikdash? So the Rambam says 2 things. The Rambam says it's a house, it's a structure that's dedicated to A, bringing karbanis, and B, Yidden being oil regel on Yom Tovim, on the Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. That's the definition of Beis HaMikdash, a house that's dedicated for those 2 purposes. What's the connection between those 2 purposes? And we understand that, yes, those are 2 things that happen in the Beis HaMikdash. There's a lot of things that happen. It's also where the Sanhedrin, Paskin Shilas. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there. So why those 2 things? So let me share with you an idea from the Arizal. This is a Pel de Gazach. What are the greatest times in the year? What's the most spiritually elevated times in the year? What times in the calendar is Kavod Hashem most pronounced? So it's Yom Tovim, right? Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And the Rizal said that when Adam Rishon sinned, and he ate from the Tzadas Tavara, he damaged everything, right? He damaged himself, he damaged all of us, he damaged time. And the Rizal said that there are certain times of the year that were more damaged than others. You know which times were the most damaged? You know which times, which days on the calendar were thrown farther away from the Rebbeinu Shalom's presence than any other? Yom Tovim. Yom Tovim. And that's an amazing thing. And when Yidden come by Har Sinai, and we take those moments that are the furthest away, and we find eitzes, and we find ways to serve Hashem in those days, not only do they become average, they become the days that express the deepest kavod shemayim. The days that were oilu regel, the days that we make our way to the Beis Hamikdash, which is again built from Yidden that are far away, are dafka on days that are far away. So the whole idea of the Beis Hamikdash being a place for karbanos, which is karbanos are what? That's a way that Yidden that are far away come close, and a day and a time where all Yidden return to the Beis Hamikdash, days that are far away that have come close. It's the same inyan. It's all revolving on this nakuda, which is what is Beis Hamikdash? A place of revealing Hashem's kavod. And what reveals Hashem's kavod more than anything else? Dafka, something that was far from Him, that's brought close. This is why it's called Shalosh Regalim. Why is it called Regalim? It's called Shalosh Pamim, 3 times a year. Regel is a funny word for that. Regel, what does regel mean? It means your leg. Your legs are the farthest part of your body. It's the most distant from your head. Shalosh Regalim. These are 3 times in the year that are in truth the farthest from the Rebbeinu Shalom. But when you take something that's far from Hashem and you bring it close to Him, there's no greater kavod shemayim than that. No greater kavod shemayim than that. So any time that we could be mechazek another yid that maybe is a little bit far, to bring him close, and anytime we could bring ourselves who are a little bit close, bring us closer. That's mamish beis. It's mamish beis hamikdash. We're going to see the Beis Hamikdash is going to be revealed dafka to the lowest generation, because those are the yidden that are literally building the Beis Hamikdash with their broken heart, with their feeling of being nicer b'Yushalayim. That's mamish bein Beis Hamikdash. No, Hashem should help. We should break the middle matzah, but then immediately hide the bigger piece for Afikomen, and we should be zochet that when we eat the Afikomen, we should mamish taste the Karm Pesach, and the truth, forget that. We should have Karm Pesach mamish. Right? There's enough time. We can have Beis Hamikdash very soon, so we should be zochet to experience that and to realize what type of kavod shemayim we're able to bring by just being who we are and trying to get that much closer. All right, shekayach.